Hello, welcome to our debate on habilitation versus personal liberties for our class SPCE 619-804. For this debate, we have chosen to use an informal debate structure. And now we will go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Madeline, and I will be the introducer and the administrator of the debate.
My name is Mackenzie. I will be the summarizer and fielder for habilitation.
I'm Kat, and I will be the illustrator and researcher for habilitation.
I'm Kalea, and I will be the personal liberties summarizer and fielder.
And I'm Hannah, and I'm the illustrator and researcher for personal liberties.
In this debate, we will be talking about the right to personal liberties versus the right to habilitation and the roles they serve for people who have disabilities. Personal liberties are provided by the Constitution in the United States, but are often more personal. They can be thought of as the right to choose and refuse. In the field of applied behavior analysis, we think of it as the right to take a nap and eat a donut, as cited by Bannerman and colleagues, 1990. Bannerman's article indicates that people with disabilities may be more successful when client preference is honored and incorporated into the treatment plans. For example, clients were more likely to participate in activities that they themselves chose and complete tasks more quickly when they chose the reinforcers for completing the tasks. On the other hand, habilitation is a right that involves support in teaching essential living skills. This is what ABA professionals do with their clients on a daily basis. People who are administrating habilitative goals may fear that if clients have too many personal liberties, the treatment outcomes will not be optimal and the individual will suffer. For example, a client may want to eat too many donuts, but eating too many donuts is not healthy. Personal autonomy varies culturally and has a prominent place in modern governments. For instance, Western societies like the United States are very liberal and view matters through the lens of individualism. In some cases, policymaking makes personal autonomy not always the primary concern. For example, someone incapacitated in the hospital must have someone make critical, life-saving decisions for their own well-being. This point leads to the most severe disadvantage of relying on personal liberties, the idea that the individual will be harmed if left to their own freedoms. In the Romantic period of the 1800s, German philosophers like Immanuel Kant argued that autonomy is examined through the lens of the individual, and the law should afford people the maximum amount of personal liberties. On the other hand, idealist philosopher Hegel thought that rights such as habilitation may clash with personal liberties. Hegel's view is the one most commonly adopted by modern Western societies. Hence, our perspective is more liberal rather than libertarian. For this discussion, we will ask ourselves, what is the right to habilitation? What are personal liberties? Who can benefit from them both? What does the law say? What are the hesitations when implementing these principles? And what are our own opinions based on research? What is habilitation? What is the purpose?
Habilitation is closely related to teaching and providing skills to individuals with disabilities to function or live independently. Habilitation is utilized throughout various fields of study. These fields include psychiatry, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and even speech therapy. The goals of these therapies are to get the client to have the ability to function independently through developmentally correct goals. A few examples from the fields above: physical therapists can help the individual learn to walk to reach new environments. This could help with the movement while living independently. Whereas occupational therapists can help the individual learn to use fine motor skills to grasp objects in their environment like a button. so that they can dress themselves. Speech therapists help the individual communicate to aid the process of social relationships and even joining the workforce. Whereas ABA professionals can help individuals that utilize contingencies that motivate them to complete independent living skills. As professionals in ABA, it is imperative to collaborate with other professionals, like many that I mentioned before. When discussing a plan for ABA services with a client, habilitative skills should be taught to the individual if independent living is a goal of the client and/or stakeholders. Today, we are discussing that these goals should be a standard for individuals with disabilities.
Habilitation is especially important when a person's choices may not align with their goals. To illustrate this point, I have a quote by a brain injury case manager named Adrian. Speaking about their client, they say, "What we learned to do is you never say to him, 'Is it time for your shower?' Because he'll say, 'No, I'll do it later,' because he had time perception problems. You never confront him by saying, 'You have to take a shower,' because that causes an argument, and he's always ready for an argument." We got to the situation where the staff were positioning themselves near the bathroom. And as he walked past, they would say, "Would you like green shower gel or blue shower gel?" And he would say blue, and he'd go in and have a shower. So we'd environmentally constructed for him to make a decision that was not only in his interest, but was actually meeting his goals. End quote. This is a situation in which free choice would not have been in the best interest of the client. He was not inclined to ever take a shower. Habilitation within the field of ABA helps by altering the environment in order to teach shower taking skills and other non-negotiable tasks.
What are personal liberties? What is the purpose?
In a legal context, personal liberties include freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and other rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Court Justice William Douglas construes personal liberties as the right to be let alone, as well as the privilege of an individual to plan his own affairs, shape his own life as he sees fit, do what he pleases, go where he pleases, freedom from restraint or compulsion, and freedom to walk, stroll, or loaf. In the pursuit of effective habilitation, many agencies display a great deal of supervision over the lives of clients with developmental disabilities. The choices contrived by these agencies may certainly benefit habilitation, but these choices may not mirror the client's preferences.
From a behavioral analytics standpoint, choices in life are valuable, but choice, if anything, is anything but complementary. Choice is seemingly a function of classical and current reinforcement and punishment contingencies. Although behavior analysts may argue that choice is not free, many also recognize that perceived choice is extremely valuable by many people. World history and current events are filled with examples of people striving to live free. Further, the illusion of freedom and choice seems to play an important role in the individual's successful functioning. Not only do people strive for freedom in a broad sense, they also enjoy making simple choices, such as whether to engage in unproductive, though harmless, activities like watching sitcoms on television, eating too many donuts, taking the afternoon off from work, or taking a nap before dinner. People typically decide for themselves when to take a shower, what to eat, and with whom to spend their time. These choices are cherished by most people, including those with developmental disabilities.
At issue is whether service providers actually allow clients with developmental disabilities these liberties, and whether it is in the client's best interest to exercise these liberties.
Who can benefit from habilitation?
Habilitation services are beneficial for any person who has not reached their respective developmental milestones. This qualifies for any developmental disability as well. ABA is set on the foundation of behavior principles and choosing behaviors to target. With habilitation, behaviors that support the client's availability for independence are targeted for increase. whereas the client's dependent behaviors are chosen for decrease. This can help aid the client with their day-to-day life and social interactions. Hugo and Hedegaard discuss the issues that can arise for autistic individuals. Discouragement throughout the education process and entering the workforce has made those with neurodiverse disabilities to have the lowest employment rate in Sweden. They argued that the teaching of social skills and living skills has social validity behind implementing these skills. The more advancement that occurs within these fields help aid the client to better participate in natural occurring events that someone could face in day-to-day life. There is merit to teaching these skills and giving our clients the opportunities that their neurotypical peers would have daily.
A great example of habilitation for people with autism comes from that same paper by Hugo and Hedegaard. They describe a group of 15 college students participating in an educational program referred to as the IT track. These students, all diagnosed with autism, were supported in their educational experience through adapted areas of study, small study groups, individualized education plans, use of an occupational therapist, and open access to a teacher. It was a highly structured program implemented by the college instructors and the occupational therapist, and it aimed to give students better social interactions and employment opportunities. The result was that by being taught concrete skills such as time management, study skills, and stress management, student self-esteem and social skills also increased. Habilitation can be instrumental in giving people with disabilities the tools they need to succeed in the world.
Who can benefit from personal liberties?
The individuals who benefit from personal liberties are individuals with developmental disabilities. Parker and colleagues describe developmental disabilities as chronic mental and/or physical impairments that begin before the age of 22 and cause limitations in several domains. As service providers, we are the advocates for those we work with. In addition, those who work closely with the individuals, such as stakeholders, should also be looking out for the client's best interest, what works for them, and what doesn't work well for the certain individual. Personal liberties can be compromised in many ways by service providers striving to meet standards for habilitation, be cost-effective, satisfy parents, board members, school administrators, neighbors, and other consumers.
As stated by Banner and colleagues, individuals appear to participate more in activities when opportunities for choice are available. Fixon, Phillips, and Wolf, 1973 states, adolescents participated in group decision-making more often when they determined consequences for their peers, rather than when their teachers or parents determined the consequences. Women who chose their own exercise had better attendance at a fitness club than other women who were assigned to the same exercises. Undergraduates who chose whether to participate and what their reward would be participated in a puzzle game during free time more often than others who had not been given either choice. And when office workers chose lottery tickets, they were less likely to sell or exchange their tickets before the drawing, even for tickets with better odds.
What does the law say about habilitation?
Bannerman and colleagues discussed that there are laws in place to make funding contingent on standard habilitation service. Any government-funded services have to maintain habilitation skills that are creating growth for the individual to continue to receive this funding. Also, habilitation, according to the U.S. Code 15009, these services should be provided without limitations for the client and specifically designed to maximize the skills of the individual. Also, when providing ABA services, the BACB Ethical Code is the guidelines for which a behavior analyst are to practice within when providing services to clients. The guidelines that support the right to habilitation are 2.01, providing effective treatment, 2.14, selecting, designing, and implementing behavior change interventions, and 3.01 responsibility to clients. With 2.01 providing effective treatment, the ethical code discusses using treatments that align with the goals of the client and stakeholders that will allow the client to engage in desired outcomes. An example of this with habilitation services would be taking public transportation. By teaching behaviors that can open to new reinforcements and social opportunities. By providing effective habilitation services, an individual can begin to contact new reinforcement in various ways. This example with using public transportation, they can start to see new people and go to work. With the Ethical Code 2.14 of selecting, designing, and implementing behavior change interventions, we are held to a standard of researching evidence-based interventions for the client. They are to best fit the needs of the client, and they are to be behaviors that will be considered naturally occurring in the client's environment. By selecting the best behavior change intervention, then we can ensure that the client is not only receiving support for behavior changes that will naturally occur in their environment, like learning to put on their shoes to go outside for a walk. Lastly, with the important code of 3.01, responsibility to clients, we are to maintain that we make decisions that are best for the client. These decisions must enhance the client's life and overall ensure that no harm is done to the client. If we are making sure that the client's well-being and development is at the center of all decisions within habilitation services, then the progress of goals and collaboration from the client will be maintained.
To illustrate the importance of these laws and codes for people with autism, I thought it would be helpful to see how many people are affected by them. From 2010 to 2020, the prevalence of autism went from 1 in 68 to 1 in 36. Each of these people has a right to habilitation, and so does everyone else diagnosed with a disability.
What does the law say about personal liberties?
People with intellectual disabilities we define as those with learning disabilities, acquired brain injuries, and dementia have often been denied their right to equal treatment before the law. The BACB's ethical codes provide the foundation for consumer, applicant, and certificate protection. Code 108 states behavior analysts do not discriminate against others. We are there to educate, advocate, and provide support to those with intellectual disabilities in order to give these individuals functional skills to succeed and live a quality life. Code 201 states by providing effective treatment, behavior analysts prioritize clients' rights and needs in service delivery. Clients' rights have to be prioritized for effective treatment, and this increases willingness to participate in the treatment. Last, Code 301 states behavior analysts must act in the best interest of clients, taking appropriate steps to support clients' rights, maximize benefits, and do no harm. They are also knowledgeable about and comply with applicable laws and regulations related to mandated reporting requirements. When other stakeholders are involved, it is always in our best interest to consider the client first.
Harding and colleagues state, throughout history, jurisdictions across the world have implemented systems which legally remove the rights of intellectually disabled people to make decisions about their own lives on the basis of perceived limitations in their mental capacity. Chandler et al. States, the ability to reason is generally taken to be the foundation for human dignity and the special moral status that we accord human beings. This raises philosophical questions about the grounds for our society's moral obligations to people with intellectual and cognitive impairments. Ideas of personhood and who is a person can be and has been used to exclude certain groups from possessing natural or human rights, including women, slaves, and people with disabilities and mental illness.
Are there any hesitations for personal liberties?
Yes, there are hesitations for personal liberties. The hesitations of personal liberties would be risky choice and lack of development of skills. Bannerman and colleagues discuss that the negative aspects of complete personal liberties. One issue is the choice of engaging in behaviors that could possibly lead to injuries or ineffective behaviors when doing tasks like completing basic independent skills. Another con to personal liberties would be the lack of independent living skills. This ultimately limits the individual to only certain reinforcement. If the individual chooses to engage in self-stimulatory behaviors instead of learning how to make lunch or dinner, then they would be reliant on someone else to give them the necessary nutrients for the day. Bannerman and colleagues discuss that within most programs, if the individual does not advance towards their goals, then they are typically asked to leave based on government costs of the program. Since this is the case, most federal funding agencies teach independent living skills as a priority with some personal liberties to combat this discharge from public agencies.
Another hesitation for personal liberties is that choice making is not often taught. If a learner is not taught how to discover their own preferences and how to make responsible choices, they will most likely not develop this skill on their own. Habilitation can teach skills such as how to make good choices, why good choices are important, and it can add both leisure and functional skills to an individual's repertoire that free choice alone would just not expose them to.
Are there any hesitations for habilitation?
Yes, there are. Bannerman and colleagues discuss several ways personal liberties may be compromised during habilitation, some of which include the first being clients may have little or no input in decisions regarding their priority treatment goals or on the procedures used to teach them. Teachers or residential staff also may teach behaviors with no regard for the client's preferences or past learning in the area. The third, choice making is not often taught. So many people require teaching for them to discover their own preferences and learn how to make responsible choices. The fourth point is opportunities for choices are not often given. In addition, the pressure to meet regulatory standards may cause service providers to put too much emphasis on quantity in scheduling of habilitative activities.
So, with the pressure to meet regulatory standards, this may cause some service providers to put too much emphasis on quality of habilitative activities. Bannerman and colleagues brought up a good point that clients may not be allowed to choose the order or the timing of activities and may be discouraged from taking breaks or from choosing activities that are not scheduled. Staff may pick out clients' clothes, a client or a dietitian may plan clients' meals, leisure material may be locked in a cabinet until a scheduled activity time, and additionally, the pressure to please funding agencies, parents, and other consumers may compel direct care staff and teachers to put on a show when visitors arrive. This is often done with little sensitivity to the client's preferences at that time.
A second argument made by Bannerman and colleagues is that the ability of a client to exercise choice may prepare him or her to live in the community where individuals are expected to make decisions and choice making.
Unfortunately, only a few tested curricula are available for teaching choice. For example, Hazel et al. Developed and tested a curriculum to teach skills, including decision making, negotiation, and communication, to adolescents with mild mental retardation. These findings showed that the adolescents used these skills to obtain some of their preferences. A number of other materials may be useful in teaching clients to make choices. First, Wirch and Volz developed a leisure skills training program for persons with several disabilities that includes suggestions for teaching choice. And Dalrymple presented a program for teaching a youth with autism to choose leisure materials. Guest and Helmstetter, in their instructional curriculum for persons with several disabilities, describe teaching choice making in natural situations. Other researchers and educators often offer suggestions as opposed to complete teaching curricula about what to teach in order to prepare clients for making choices. For example, Shevin and Klein recommended teaching concepts like choose now, later, I want, and I do not want, etc. Guest Saylor and Baer described procedures to teach functional use of yes and no. Reese, 1986, showed that some clients learn to make complex decisions by listing options, discussing advantages and disadvantages of each option, and choosing the best option.
Do you have any final thoughts on habilitation?
The law in the BACB Ethics Code supports the goals of habilitation as the individual is given goals that achieve independence to the person who is receiving those services. Habilitation also teaches independent living skills, which is important for clients and stakeholders where independent living is highly valued. Finally, habilitation is important because when discussing personal liberties for clients, choice is not always a skill set that is learned instinctively. So, by providing habilitative services and goals, then you are providing your client with autonomy by giving them skills that they could be self-sustaining on their own. These skills could also lead to the client's overall ability to choose. By implementing choices within teaching these habilitative behaviors, it sets the client up to be able to begin to learn to make choices if choosing is not a behavior already within the client's repertoire.
Do you have any final thoughts for personal liberties?
Many individuals with developmental disabilities may not perceive choice that is available, and many may not be skilled in making choices. Therefore, these individuals may require teaching to learn how to exercise choice to obtain what they desire. Everyone has the right and ability to make choices on some level. People should be allowed to exercise as much choice as their abilities allow, whether it involves expressing a simple preference or weighing the advantages and disadvantages of several options during complex decision making. In summary, this research indicates that individuals frequently prefer situations in which they have choice. It also seems that choice may have benefits for individuals, especially in increasing participation and reducing problem behaviors.
Now we will close by asking ourselves some questions. The first question is, as a BCBA, how can we advocate for clients' personal liberties?
People who do not have a repertoire of skills and who do not understand the consequences of their behavior, they often require teaching in these areas before allowing them to make more frequent choices. Until that time, caring, responsible parents, advocates, or teachers should aid the client in deciding what activities can be refused and what types of choices he or she is capable of making. A BCBA must protect the rights and prerogatives of clients. Therefore, being educated and staying up to date on current laws and regulations is critical. In addition, it is also important for us to educate our stakeholders so that they know what to look out for and how they can best assist those that need support.
Very good. The second question is, why is habilitation necessary for people who have disabilities?
It is necessary for individuals who are disabled to learn behaviors outside of their repertoire to contact new reinforcement. Teaching behavioral cusp and other behaviors that can help with independent living should be a high priority to acclimate the person to naturally occurring societal norms. That makes me circle back to in the beginning when I was talking about examples from other fields, such as physical therapy, occupational therapists, ABA, and speech therapists. We all are working together to get our client to be able to reach these new reinforcements. These norms center around employment, education, social relationships, and hygiene. Using the process of habilitation can create successful opportunities in each example without contrasting the individual from their peers.
All right, that was a great response. And here are our references. Okay, everybody, that concludes our debate presentation. We hope that you enjoyed it and you learned something. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.